Why do people feel the need to aggressively defend their God? Like Christians will argue with you endlessly if you say something about their God. And for Muslims, we've seen how far they can go. And when I talk about people reacting aggressively to their God being questioned, I'm not even talking about having a healthy debate. I mean like anger, like violence, like rage. And the thing is, what exactly are you even defending? Because if your God is all powerful, why are you fighting his battles? If someone insults God, shouldn't God handle it? Isn't that literally what you're taught, that vengeance belongs to him? So why are people doing the most? And the reality of this thing is, most times people are not even defending God, they're defending themselves. For a lot of people, God is not just a belief, God is their identity. God is their ego, their tribe, God is their family, God is their culture, God is their entire sense of self-worth. And so when you insult their God or they hear something about their God that they don't like, what they're actually hearing is, oh, you're stupid or you don't belong or your whole identity is false. Yeah, because they have enmeshed with God. And that is why their reaction is always so emotional, so visceral. Because it's not spiritual, it's actually personal. If we're looking at this from a psychological standpoint, psychology calls this identity fusion. That is when somebody's belief becomes indistinguishable from the self. And this is why people who are secure in their beliefs rarely react violently. Like they don't feel existentially threatened. In our society, God is not treated like an idea or a belief that should be discussed. God is treated like a sacred value. And sacred values don't work like normal opinions. Sacred values cannot be negotiated, they cannot be joked about, they cannot be questioned. They usually override empathy, they override logic, and they override common sense. And that is why, once something becomes sacred like this, the brain stops reasoning and switches to defense mode. And when this happens, conversations immediately collapse. That is, the debate will turn hostile. Everybody will become angry. And at that point, you're no longer talking to a thinking mind. You're not talking to a reasonable person. You have triggered their moral alarm system. And when a moral alarm is activated, people don't listen again. They just protect. They go into defense mode. They attack. Now, there's a clear contradiction people don't like to sit with. God is all powerful, yet somehow people feel the need to fight for him. And that tension exists because if God can be insulted, then he is vulnerable. If he is vulnerable, then belief starts to shake. So humans step in to cover that insecurity. Violence now becomes a way to force certainty when doubt feels unbearable. So no, they're not actually defending God's honor. They're defending their need for God to remain unquestionable, untouched, and beyond scrutiny. Because once God becomes debatable, the table, everything else that they've built their life around, starts to shake. That table begins to shake. And this is also the reason why you see some religions react more violently than others, It's not really about Muslims versus Christians or Jews versus Hindus. No, it's actually about the environment and the power and the enforcement of that power. You find violence, in places where religion and the law are the same thing, and we know where that happens more, or places where disagreements lead to social punishment or exile, or shame culture is strong, or authority is externalized. That is, oh, God said it, or it's not me that said it, it's God that said it, which we see a lot of. And then obedience is framed as morality. So in this type of systems, aggression is not seen as a wrong thing. It is justified. It is seen as righteous. So violence feels like a duty and not extremism. And that is why it is so dangerous. And this is also why blasphemy laws exist. Blasphemy laws are not there to protect God. Like an all-powerful God does not need legal protection. They exist to protect belief systems, to protect authority and social control, to protect social control. They exist because once people are allowed to question God openly, they might start to question the people who speak for him, like the pastors, like the imams, like the rabbis. The laws, they might start to question the laws. They might start to question power structures. They might start to question hierarchy. They will question the whole system. So blasphemy is punished not because it hurts God, not because it hurts God, but because it threatens order. It introduces doubt into systems that survive uncertainty and obedience. And this is not even psychosis, It's not like people are mad, or something. It's more like a group mental shutdown. So what is happening is that once people feel threatened, their brain goes into fight or flight, their logic drops, and then their emotions take over. Everything becomes us versus them. And now they see you as an outsider. Now they stop thinking for themselves, they outsource their morality. Now instead of asking, what do I think is right? They rely on, what did God say? What did my religion say? What did my pastor say? What did my mom say? And at the core of all these things is fear. Fear that if this belief is questioned, their entire world will collapse. Their meaning, their rules, their identity, everything is gone. Everything is gone. So when they cannot tolerate uncertainty, disagreement, or criticism, they don't sit with it, they react. And aggression fills that gap, not because they are evil, but because they don't know how to exist without absolute certainty. And this is also why, take this example for instance, like if I'm talking to another Nigerian and we start insulting Nigeria, I won't get upset. Like we'll probably we'll probably agree. We'll list all the problems, we'll complain, we'll diss the country, and we'll laugh about it and move on. It's a very constructive conversation because we are both inside it. We are both part of the same reality. Now, let that same conversation come from someone who is not Nigerian, maybe a Ghanaian. Suddenly, I might feel a sting. Like, why are you talking about my country like that? Not necessarily because what they are saying is false. So sometimes it's even worse because what they are saying is true. That's where the pain comes from. The truth hits harder when it comes from an outsider. And at that point, ego will show up. I might get defensive. I might start pointing out the good parts of Nigeria. Or I would even throw it back at them. Like, what about your country? People's jollof rice is not sweet. What about your president? But the thing is, even when I'm annoyed, I'm not going to lose my mind. I'm not going to attack them. I'm not going to become violent. I'm not going to say, oh, because of that, I'll fight with them or I'll never talk to them again. Why is that? Because Nigeria is not my entire identity. I mean, people are running away from Nigeria every day because of the problems in it. Then I'll say, oh, I want to come and beat up somebody because they said shit about Nigeria. No, I have not wrapped my whole sense of self around being Nigerian. So even if the thing is paining me, even if I vex, yeah, I still have distance. I can ignore it. I can clap back, but that's it. I can laugh it off. That is the end of it. That is the end of that. So I can love something without dissolving into it, without merging, without fusing into it, you know. I can revere something, I can respect something without becoming like fusing my entire identity with it. So when people completely fuse their identity with something like religion, like God, yeah, like an ideology, even when a lot of people even fuse their identity with a leader, maybe a guru or a president or a pastor, yeah, and when they do this, criticism does not feel like a conversation anymore, yeah, it feels like an attack on their existence. Like there's no psychological distance. They cannot separate their belief from their identity, and they cannot just observe or listen. They just have to go into defense. And the truth is, people who are actually secure in their faith do not react like this. Calm, like if your belief is calm, you're not going to panic. A strong faith does not need blood, yeah, to justify itself. Power does not need human rage. And so anytime you see someone aggressively defending God, you're not witnessing someone that has a strong faith. You're witnessing someone with a fragile belief system. You're witnessing someone with a weak belief system. And in all this, I always go back to Karl Marx, you know, when he said religion is the opium of the masses. And it's not because belief in itself is bad, but because when belief becomes a substitute for thinking, like you replace your brain, yeah, with your belief system, it numbs people. It's, you know, silences people's doubts, yeah, and it gives them like ready-made answers where self-reflection should be. So they're no more using their logical thinking brain, they're just giving you ready-made answer. This person said, let me quote these. Look. So instead of sitting with discomfort, they will react. Instead of questioning, they become defensive. Yeah. Instead of faith being something internal, something that grounds them, it turns into something that must be enforced. This is by force. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen and non-humans, I think religion is dangerous. Thank you for coming to my podcast.